coming up on BCN today. The government of Alberta and Alberta Health Services to lay off nearly 6,000 workers, and United Nurses of Alberta demand an emergency meeting with the health minister. Plus, warnings of a potential avalanche have been issued as Waterton receives more than 50 centimeters of snow. And Canada's 13 premiers meet today for the first time since the October election.
Your Canada. Your Southern Alberta. Your stories. From our studios in the heart of Lethbridge, it's BCN Today with Jeanette Roche.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Monday. The RCMP and Coaldale Fire and Emergency Services were called to a 9-car collision shortly after 7 p.m. last night. The collision happened near the intersection of Highway 3 and Range Road 20-4. The eastbound lanes were shut down east of the Brucksburn lights. All eastbound traffic, that is, was being rerouted to the Jail Road, and westbound traffic was slowed to a crawl. Icy road conditions are believed to have been a factor. However, the accident is under investigation. The Alberta Union of Provincial Employees President Guy Smith will hold a press conference today in response to the Government of Alberta and Alberta Health Services laying off up to 5,900 full-time positions. Smith says AUPE members have been talking about this possibility for months. He says they've been preparing, rallying, and picketing across the province and building their capacity to stand strong and fight back. The AUPE provincial, executive, and local chairs will meet this week to determine the union's response to these attacks. Meanwhile, the United Nurses of Alberta says 750 frontline registered nurses will be laid off. The UNA is now demanding an emergency meeting with Alberta's UCP Health Minister, Tyler Shandro. The union says hundreds of frontline registered nurses and registered psychiatric nurses will lose their jobs in massive downsizing planned by Alberta Health Services. In a news release, UNA President Heather Smith says the elimination of that many nurses equates to over 1 million fewer hours of care. On Saturday, hundreds braved the freezing cold in Calgary to speak out against the public sector job cuts. They gathered outside the airport hotel where the United Conservatives held their annual general meeting.
Everybody knows that cuts are painful and cuts may happen, but the difference is, are you burning down the kitchen or are you making adjustments? And I think right now they're just burning down the kitchen and thinking they can just rebuild Alberta the way they want. And I have not found an Albertan that said, we hate our province. We like our province. We think it's doing great. I don't know why Kenny's trying to scare off investors. Investors don't want that. So we have a lot of people who are really angry because no one's being listened to. And I think that's the biggest message. But obviously cuts, that's what we're going to talk about, because that's something someone made a choice of. They sat at a desk and said, we're going to cut 500 people, and we're not going to tell you when or how or where. We're going to make everybody scared.
I live on $16.85 a month, and according to Jason Kenney, it's not onerous to cut that back. And if he cuts the $16.85 a month, I won't be able to survive. Yeah, it's freezing cold. It's a long walk for me. I can't walk that far, but I can't just sit idly because there's other people on AISH that physically couldn't get here.
These cuts directly affect me. Like the cuts to the U of C, we're losing professors, our tuition is going up, the interest on student loans is going up, education is already really expensive. Depending on what the next couple years bring, I don't even know if I'll be able to finish my degree.
It began with the announcement that 700 registered nurses and registered psychiatric nurses are going to lose their jobs because of this government. But they weren't done, because just a couple of hours later, another letter was delivered, this time to the Health Sciences Association of Alberta, and they were told that another 1,000 workers would be losing their jobs.
Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says his critics ought to tone down their rhetoric, arguing some of the reaction to recent budget cuts is overblown.
Our approach is soft-hearted but hard-headed. Now, let me say a word, an important word, to the good folks who work hard delivering our public services. Albertans respect the work that you do. as does this government. We want to empower you to create a high-performing government that delivers services more efficiently, reducing internal red tape, empowering frontline workers. We also want to challenge you to help us find reasonable savings in what is the biggest spending and best-paid public sector in Canada. Albertans have told us that they will not accept or pay higher taxes. They know that the best way to balance the budget is to grow the economy, and that higher taxes will further stifle rather than create jobs and growth. Albertans refuse to risk our future by sinking this province in a sea of red ink. This government does not. We do not want to lay off good people in our schools, hospitals, or public services. And we will work hard to minimize the labor impact of this 2.8% modest reduction in spending. And so we ask the government unions, work with us constructively to find savings. In some cases, this might mean moderating pay or benefits that folks in the private sector do not enjoy. I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. It certainly does not mean 8% salary increases that some union leaders have demanded in an economy where private sector incomes are down 8% over the past 5 years.
Earlier at the meeting, UCP members showed overwhelming support for measures that would give Alberta more autonomy from Ottawa, including establishing its own pension plan, tax collection agency, police force, and firearms watch. Kenny says that he will discuss the possibility measures with his fellow provincial leaders at the Council of the Federation meeting in Mississauga, Ontario today, where Canada's premiers are meeting for the first time as a group since the federal election. The premiers will be talking about healthcare and a boost to the equalization formula when they meet. That meeting will try to shape a collective agenda, that is, for their relationship with the federal government, and is expected to focus on the carbon tax, the new federal environmental assessment legislation, and amendments to the fiscal stabilization program. Ontario Premier Doug Ford met with his Saskatchewan and New Brunswick counterparts to announce a nuclear energy agreement yesterday. This was ahead of the meeting with all 13 of Canada's premiers today.
Today I'm excited to announce Ontario, New Brunswick, and Saskatchewan have signed a memorandum of understanding. Our provinces have committed to collaborating to advance the development of small modular reactors, better known moving forward as SMRs. This technology could bring great benefit to the people of our provinces and our country. Small modular reactors could generate clean, cost-effective, and reliable energy for both on-grid and off-grid generation, helping our rural and remote communities as well as sectors like mining.
Conservative leader Andrew Scheer says he's dismissed those calling for him to step down as elitists and talking heads. He says they know he will never relent in his opposition to the carbon tax. Scheer addressed the Alberta's UCP at their AGM on Saturday.
The Liberals know that the NDP is weakened and broke. As soon as Elections Canada sends out the party rebates in the spring and the Liberals get their money, Trudeau will get ready to try to get his majority back. And we know what he'll be running on. A carbon tax, a higher carbon tax. Is that what Canada needs? No. Playing one region off against the other in this country. Will that create prosperity? No. Taking firearms away from law-abiding farmers and hunters and letting dangerous criminals off easy. Will that make Canada a safer place? No. Now, I see in the papers and some talking heads on TV, there are some Laurentian elites who want me to sign on to all of that. They think that what Canada needs is a second Liberal Party. And you may have heard some of these folks want me gone because they know I will never stand for that. All these people, they think that they can turn our April convention into an internal fight. They think this because, let's be honest, Conservatives, we've done this to ourselves before. When we focus on our differences instead of our common goals and our vision for a strong and united Canada, we have snatched victory from ourselves in the past. But I have met with Conservatives right across this country, and I know that that isn't what our convention is going to be about. It's going to be a convention where Conservatives of every stripe come together. And like we always do when we work together, we are going to come up with some big ideas. We're going to use our different perspectives to come out with a bold plan of action for a better Canada.
The Coaldale Fire Department says an investigation has determined careless smoking was the cause of a fatal house fire in the southern Alberta town of Nobleford. Emergency crews responded to the fire last weekend and found a 27-year-old man in the home who was declared dead at the scene. The house sustained significant damage and 2 other adjacent homes suffered heat damage as well. The man's name has not been released. With all of the snow we've had lately, the avalanche risk is reported to be quite high in Waterton Lakes National Park. Avalanche Canada says the risk of snowslides in the alpine and tree line areas are quite high. They're also said to be considerably below the tree line. Officials say Waterton received 50 to 70 centimeters of snow last week. The strong northeast winds have created slabs that will be very easy to trigger. The City of Lethbridge is hoping to potentially find a buyer for the NMAX Centre. City councillors last week voted to explore ownership and operational alternatives for the money-losing facility. A recent financial report by KPMG says last year, NMAX Centre held 189 events over 212 days and used just 58% of the space. According to the report, NMAX Centre brought in $9.7 million in revenue. However, it was funded by $1.8 million by taxpayers, and its operating loss was $1.7 million. Bottom line is that the facility needs to be full, and it's not.
The NMAX is essentially an entity that needs to have cost recovery, so we need that building full. So whether it's the hurricanes, concerts, whatever it happens to be, we need that building full. So at different times throughout its history, it's operated somewhere between 70 to 85% on cost recovery, which means it's being subsidized or tax supported to 15 to 30% every year. So we need to fill that building. That means we need to be a promoter. Literally, we're bringing in concerts, we're putting all those things, and we're putting every event on there on the backs of tax support. So the question is that what the community wants? Is there another model to do that?
Some suggestions to help with the revenue shortfall include charging for parking during Canes games and bringing in a theater to host productions. More discussions on the city's budget are expected today during the Community Issues Committee meeting in City Hall. The 15th annual Lethbridge Mayor's Prayer Breakfast took place over the weekend with a good crowd on hand to show their support for not only the mayor and council, but for our provincial and federal politicians as well. The event is organized by the Lethbridge Evangelical Ministerial Association.
Our heart and intent is to honor our governmental leaders, pray for them. The Bible tells us to do that. Actually, the Bible says that God has appointed them. Even though we vote for them, ultimately He appoints them, and He's called us to pray for them, to honor them. And so that's the heart behind this thing, and they certainly need our prayers. I mean, these are tough days, some challenging issues out there, and it's a hard job. And so they definitely need our prayers. They need our prayer for covering, protection. This isn't it's not a partisan thing. We have different opinions. This is just about supporting them as God's servants. They appreciate our prayers, whether they're, Christians or not. They value our support and our backing.
Well, we're looking at plus temperatures here in southern Alberta this week, but Atlantic Canada is bracing for a mix of snow, rain, and ice pellets as a winter storm rolls eastward. I'll have full weather details coming up after the break. Welcome back. Here's a look at our weather highlights for today and tomorrow in Lethbridge. We're going to finally be seeing a little bit of sunshine in our forecast. Today, a mix of sun and cloud, though, with a high of 5 degrees, a low of 0 overnight, not too bad. And then tomorrow, lots of sunshine with a high of 8 degrees. And then looking ahead to the 5-day forecast, more sunshine in the forecast there. We're going to be seeing temperatures rising and falling all over the place. High of 9 degrees on Wednesday, then going down to 0 on Thursday, rising back up to 9 on Friday, going down to -1 on Saturday, and then up to 3 degrees on Sunday. Mostly sunshine, though, throughout the week. A little bit of mixed sun and cloud there on the weekend. Not too bad, though. The almanac highs and lows for this time of year, it looks like the average high this time of year should be around 1 degree. The average low around -10. The record high on this day was 15 degrees. It was back in 1941. And the record low was -32 in 1950. The sun rose this morning at 8:08 a.m. and will be setting this afternoon at 4:34 p.m. right when you're driving home and you're getting that sunshine in your eyes when you're coming up the West Hill. Over to the West Coast, Victoria and Vancouver are going to be seeing showers today, 6 degrees in both of those cities, a high of 2 degrees up in Edmonton, and a high of 4 in Calgary, mix of sun and cloud in both of those cities. Looking over to Saskatchewan, we have a mix of sun and cloud in Saskatoon with a high of -2, a high of -1 in Regina, but lots of sunshine. Sunshine as well expected today in Winnipeg with a high of 0 degrees over there. Looking over to our friends in the east, Toronto will be seeing some flurries today with a high of 0 degrees. Ottawa will be seeing a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 2 degrees. And Montreal will see a high of only -4 today with a mix of sun and cloud. Now looking ahead to Atlantic Canada, actually Environment Canada has issued some special weather alerts for Atlantic Canada, particularly in New Brunswick, where they're going to be seeing freezing rain, ice pellets, flurries, all kinds of stuff. You can't really tell from the icons. Fredericton, sunshine at -3 though. Charlottetown's high is 0 degrees, high of 2 degrees in Halifax with lots of snow, and the same for St. John's. That's your weather. Here's a look at your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. Warm your hearts this season and come enjoy the Winter Light Festival at the Nikayuko Japanese Garden until January 31st. Gates are open from 6 to 9 p.m. Experience the illumination of over 100,000 lights decorating the beautifully shaped trees and gardens. Admission is $9 for adults, $7 for kids ages 6 to 15, and various ticket packages are also available. For more information, visit nikayuko.com. Aged Care Columbia is pleased to invite you to their Christmas market on Tuesday, December 3rd from 1 to 4 p.m. at 785 Columbia Boulevard West in Lethbridge. Open to the whole family. Find custom-made crafts, clothing, decor, household goods, baking, and more. Also, get a picture with Santa for $1 and enjoy delicious hot chocolate with cookies for $2. Proceeds will go to the Lethbridge Food Bank. Martin Brothers Funeral Chapels invite you to attend their annual Holiday Remembrance program on December 3rd at 7 p.m. at their Riverview Chapel. Holidays can be a difficult time for many who have lost a loved one, and this event gives an opportunity to honor those who have left us and support those who are still with us. For more information, call Martin Brothers at 403-328-2361. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.
Want to bring some Christmas into your daily meals? Well, December is now here, so let's kick off our daily life hack, Christmas style. To make a fun and festive breakfast, start putting pancake mix into a cleaned out condiment bottle. Next, dip some large cookie cutters into a dish of cooking oil and set them onto a pre-greased and preheated cooking pan. Now just pour in some pancake batter and give it a minute to cook. When the batter is firm, go ahead and remove the cookie cutter with a clean pair of pliers and your pancake will hold its shape. Now just finish them up in the usual way and then make a whole bunch more. Looks both delicious and festive. Yummy. And that's your daily life hack. Ever wonder what children's drawings would look like if you were to put them in real life? Well, thanks to computer graphics and a talented CGI artist, you can. Check this out. That's adorable and hilarious. Well, the Annandale House is sometimes referred to as the Christmas house in Lethbridge. The century-old home sits right in the heart of the city and has quite the colorful history. BCN's Loris Alexander finds out why this home brings so much Christmas cheer to families each and every year.
Garfield Bland and his wife Diane moved into this 3-story historic house in 1984. While its history has been maintained, the Blands have decked the halls with boughs of holly and more.
We moved in at the end of October because the people, they were sort of squatters actually, that were here, wanted to have a Halloween party. Well, this house was, at that time, was very suitable for a Halloween party. It was a wreck.
Bland says much of the displays are hand-built by himself, ideas that came to fruition on a whim, like this train set.
I get an idea, and I think, well, that'd be great. It never clicks into my mind as to how much work it'll be, but all in all, but I get involved, and by then it's too late. I have to finish it, so.
The Annandale Christmas House supports several local charities with their admission fees.
Some of it goes to the food bank, some of it goes to the YWCA for mothers in need.
So why a Christmas house?
Being a Christian, that's the big part of it, and just to exemplify what the spirit of Christmas represents.
For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
Thank you, Loris, for that report. A new report says Ottawa has actually lost money since it purchased the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. Our parliamentary reporter Ray Filion has details coming up right after the break in the second half of our show. Stay with us.